Oh, I'm sorry, James. I know what that feels like when you've been trying to track an animal and all of a sudden you're sort of pipped at the post in terms of finding them. I know exactly what it feels like. And to be fair, those tracks were confusing. On the one road, they were going in the complete opposite direction to where these lions are, so they must have been more than 2 males on Djuma last night. I guess the other male moved off further towards the east. But there we go. Could there be a more spectacular sight than 2 male lions in this glorious golden light? And just off the top of my head, definitely looks as though Mufmo is there. My next guess would be to say that this is Tinyo that we're looking at. I haven't had a chance to closely look at his face. The sun is right in my eyes. Hello, boy. That looks like him, does it not? Is he giving himself a thorough paw cleaning? So these are our resident dominant males, the Birmingham boys, or 2 of them. There's actually 4 of them in total, and between the 4 of them, once 5, very sadly, but between the 4 of them, they've established themselves an absolutely massive territory that encompasses the whole of Djuma, most of Arathusa, into Buffelshoek. Just listening to the go-away birds, sorry. Alarm calling. Yes, encompasses right down to Cheetah Plains, sometimes into Mala Mala, the whole of Torchwood. So they really do have an absolutely massive territory. They have fathered cubs. Oh dear boy, that's not very convenient at all. Sorry everybody, I'll just have to put up with not being able to see their faces for now. They have fathered several sets of cubs, both by the Nkuhumas and by the Styx lions, and it is always wonderful to encounter them. It's been a joy to watch them grow into their various fatherly roles as they have, and also just watch them fill out, their manes getting bigger and darkening. All in all, they've become a true force to be reckoned with in this particular area. The last time I saw these 2, they were starving hungry. They don't look as hungry as they did then. I mean, they really were looking thin-bellied, their hips were sticking out. They just looked in need of a very good meal. And that belly looks much fuller than when I last saw them. Alright, this is a very tricky position. I wonder, I'm just trying to see, sorry, there's my head, getting my head in the way. I'm just trying to see whether or not we can actually try and find a different position to view them by. But unfortunately it might be a little bit tricky. There's a quarry bush in the way, and if I drive... Boys, it's a very, very inconvenient position for you to be in. They found themselves the only patch of shade right outside Gallego Pan. Now don't forget to send through your questions on the subject of these lions, or anything else, I guess, on #SafariLive on Twitter. I think the only thing I can try and do is shuffle forward a little bit, because this view is not particularly good. Hold on, let me think about this. Now that, oh, hold on. This gentleman appears to want to move. That'll make life easier. Let's just see which way he's going. Backwards, forwards. And welcome to Caro, while we look at our Birmingham boys. Caro, you want to know whether or not these are brothers or cousins. I'm actually not sure about the direct relationship between Mufmo and Tinyo. It would be terribly tragic if we had a bumper bashing in a lion sighting. Let me just move a bit further back. I'm actually not sure. I know they come from the same pride. The thing about male lions and the way in which they form coalitions is they could be brothers, they could be cousins. In this case, we know that they're directly related to each other, but that isn't always the case. Cheers, guys. Morning, how are you? Good. Thanks. Cheers. There we go. Problem solved. What was I talking about? Oh, yes. So male lions... Let's get into position and we can watch them. When a male lion leaves a pride with several male lions of his own age, he's actually got a ready-made coalition. And they could be cousins, they could be brothers, As you know, generally speaking, lionesses will synchronize their estrus cycles so as to produce several litters of cubs at once that they will then allosuckle. So the cubs are as close as can be, and if you've got a collection of male cubs, excuse me, they could be siblings and they could be cousins, they'll move out together once they reach the appropriate age. However, if it is one lone male lion, as was the case with the Nkuhuma male junior, and they leave home, they will quite happily form a coalition with another young lone male, or a couple of young lone males. Lions are not strict about being related to the coalition members that they're in a coalition with. And that's because everybody gets a chance to mate. So the advantage of numbers outweighs the desperate desire to pass on one's own genetics over everybody else. But we know that the Birmingham boys are related. Those of you who perhaps have dug into their history a little bit, perhaps you can tell me, sorry, I think I swallowed a fly, or a bug of some kind. Maybe you can let me know whether or not they are brothers or if they're cousins. For some reason, I have a feeling that they're cousins, because I actually think there's a slight age difference between the two of them, but I'm not 100% sure on that. They're all roughly the same age. Nsugu was the eldest when obviously he's still the eldest. That doesn't change. But he's the eldest of them. And I think he's probably about 6 months older than the rest of them. So it's Nsugu, Nena, Mufmo, and Tinyo. They seem to be sleeping off full bellies. I wonder what they've been eating. They've definitely got very, very round bellies indeed. Sure. Big sigh from our male lions. And it's a pity that we only found them at this time of the morning, because it's starting to heat up significantly. The cloud cover that we started with has all but vanished, which means this is probably what they're going to do for the rest of the morning. Have a jolly good snooze. I did see an Inyala walking in this direction, so you never know. There's the possibility of an animal coming to have a drink at Galago Pan and getting ambushed by them, but it seems relatively unlikely, because once a male lion goes to sleep, that's generally the way that they spend their day. You can see them rapidly panting. Very, very good question. Now, VJ would like to know what my favorite moment or most memorable sighting is with these male lions. And I'm humming about it because I've actually had many moments with these lions that have been truly spectacular. So I'm struggling to pick just one. I have to say that a lot of the sightings when these boys came in were truly spectacular, in the sense that they were very, very active all of the time. There was lots of roaring going on. I think one of my favorite sightings was when they came in and chased the Nkuhumas off a buffalo kill. And then they didn't even feed off it, but there was so much roaring around, and they were so, in those days, now they've got this very relaxed, comfortable, dominant male lion feeling about them. But in those days, everywhere they went, they trotted in a way that suggested massive levels of testosterone. I don't know how else to tell you this, but essentially when a male coalition takes over a territory, they are pumped full of testosterone, and you could see it in their body language. They had something rough and tumble and ready to fight about them. So I think those are probably some of my most memorable sightings with them. There was also the fight that the Nkuhumas had that I was with Liam for during a school drive, funnily enough. There was a massive fight between, I think it was Tinyo and Mufmo, over one of the lionesses, but the lionesses were so angry that they joined in because they had the cubs to protect, and it turned into utter chaos, and the noise and the roaring and all of that comes together, it's awe-inspiring. And then I've got one more absolutely favorite sighting. It involves the Nkuhumas as well, but these boys were there and they were kind of the instigators of it. It was when we were doing the first Mara week, where James was in the Mara for a week, and we were doing the late night drives with the the infrared, and Dave and I were sitting in complete pitch blackness. The only way that I knew there were lions walking past me was I could hear of their feet touching the ground next to me. Could not see a thing. The only thing I could see was what the camera was looking at on my monitor. And all of a sudden, these boys started to roar, and it was back in the day when all four of them were on. It was one of the last times I saw all four of them on Djuma. And they were roaring away, and it was just the most spectacular moment, because the boys started to roar, and then the ladies joined in, and then the cubs joined in. And there was just this cacophony of lion roars all around us. And the entire vehicle was shaking with the power of the noise that they were making. And I don't think I've ever had that many lions around me roaring. I've seen all 5 of them roar together on quarantine. That was also spectacular. Oh dear, now I'm giving you a list of memorable memories. But I can't help it. We've just had so many magic moments with them. But all of them roaring around us, and the cubs, their cubs, joining in. It was spectacular. Truly, truly spectacular. There was another time where, as I said, on quarantine, all 5 of them roaring around us when they first took over. We went out after the drive had finished. It was back when Scrapper or Tokolosh was still alive. And I remember distinctly everybody on the back of the vehicle going into a sort of awed and hushed silence when these lions roared around us. All 5 boys calling together. It's a spectacular experience. And then there's just the everyday mundane ones. Watching the cubs play on top of them, watch them how tolerant they were with them. Now, there's another person who has actually spent a great deal of time with these lions, and I'm sure Brent perhaps has some memorable stories with them to share as well.
Well, hello, welcome back. Now, unfortunately, we can't find where Shongile's come out of that block, and it is one of the bigger areas with no roads. But there have been a few vehicles up and down. There's a possibility her tracks have been missed, so we're just going to have a quick look around the tree house waterhole up towards Shibam. I'm also having a look for young Hosanna. Now, Jamie is indeed correct that I have spent a lot of times with the Birmingham boys, the Nkuhumas, the Matimbas before that, and I've got a few wonderful memories. I think definitely one of the most memorable was the first buffalo kill we ever got live, and that was quite special. We've had some really good ones. The Birmingham boys during the takeover with the Matimbas, when they were chasing each other up and down around Ledwood Road and roaring. That was very cool. And of course, probably definitely one of the most memorable lion sightings I had was the day the missing Nkuhuma cubs appeared when we were with the rest of the pride, and Brian had drawn a lion cub thumb on his finger. That was definitely a very memorable one. Okay, we're about to get to the treehouse waterhole. Let us hope there is a little leopard next to it. Now we're going to keep checking. We might head east a little bit. I heard that Thandi Thamba, that kill was stolen by hyenas, so they were on the move. I haven't heard if they've lost them, but I will check on the Eastern Game Drive channel shortly. Okay, no little leopard hiding next to the waterhole. Behind the waterhole? Nope. And no little leopard tracks. Okay, we're going to check up towards Shabam. If we get no luck there, then we will start heading to the east, see if we can follow up on Thandi and Thamba. But while we do that, James has got some flutterbys to show you.
Linked. Sorry, I meant linking. What I meant was linked, and yes, we are live. Here we are. Good. Okay, that's 2 links I've missed today. I'm sorry about that, for my deeply unprofessional behaviour. I was talking to Herbert about something else. It's a butterfly, just near where I want to show you. Are you looking at a butterfly now, Craig? What butterfly? A monarch. Good. Craig has got a monarch butterfly. There are a whole lot of butterflies around the waterhole here, and the reason we've come to this little waterhole is that we tracked what is either the world's biggest water monitor down here, or a small crocodile, and I was supposed to be standing there on the log, sort of majestically, as opposed to falling off it like a fool, and massive tail drag and big feet, and it came to this water. Might be underneath the log, it might be in the water there somewhere, most probably a very large water monitor, but it could have been a small crocodile. We do know that Vladimir the Impaler was found, in fact, on Craig's last day of his last work cycle, some way from any water underneath a bush, and he remained there for a whole day. Then there's another beautiful butterfly over here, and this is what arrested my attention and made me want to stop here. It's on the end of this. Okay, Craig, can you see it fly there? It's now just come out into the sun. You see it there? It's a sulphur. Oh no, I thought it was a sulphur orange tip. It isn't, though. It isn't. The sulphur orange tip is that yellow colour with orange tips to the wings, but that's yellow, and it's got orange shoulders. So I'm afraid I don't know what that is. And feeding on the plant that keeps on giving, the WildEarthTV indica. That is really quite beautiful. I don't know what it is. We'll call it a sulphur orange shoulder, shall we? Sulphur orange shoulder. And then all around this little field of WildEarthTVs, we've got these bright orange acrias, and they're a new species to me. I don't know which one they are. They might be the Christmas acria, but you can see them. Can you see them all there, Craig? Those bright orange ones there? Can you see them? Not really on the screen, yes, of course. Craig, of course, is looking through a screen that has been destroyed by many hours out here in the wilderness, and so it's very difficult for him. Craig, shall I go around there and point one out to you? Would that be easier? You stay there. I'll come round here. And, well, a little bit like Brent, our plan is to see if we can't figure out where Shongile went. Craig, if you come down here, you'll find you've got some. There they are, and if somebody could tell me which acria they are, that would be most helpful, thank you. Just a beautiful field of butterflies here. Makes one feel like one is in some sort of children's story. Now, Lightning Guy, you're wondering if the monarch butterflies of this area migrate in the same way that yours do up in America, and they don't. I think they do some very minor altitudinal migration, in other words, so they may go higher up for the summer months and then come lower down here for the winter months, but no, they don't do a huge amount of migration. And you'll find that generally insect migrations are probably a lot smaller in the tropics than they would be in the more temperate zones. But that American migration of butterflies is just absolutely astounding. And what I find so amazing about it, of course, and I always get this slightly wrong, but I'll have a go at it anyway, is that the butterflies that leave, where is it? It's southeastern Canada, to fly down to Mexico, don't ever make it there. They breed on the way, and so no butterfly makes the complete round trip. And somehow the trip is encoded into their genetic makeup, And it just astounds me that they're able to complete that massive trip of some, 2,500 miles, I think. And none of them actually complete the full trip. This is just beautiful. All of these butterflies now warming up. The sun's just sort of started to, it hasn't just come up obviously, but it's just started to break through the clouds, and it's starting to heat up the hemolymph in their bodies. That in turn is allowing them to flap their wings, and then they'll fly off and they'll stick their little proboscises into the little flowers of the flower that keeps on giving, the Waltheria indica, and eventually, hopefully, they'll find themselves a mate, and they'll lay their eggs on the very same plant, and I suspect some of them will have to overwinter in the ground even. It's quite interesting that. I don't actually know what happens, because I've seen many of their eggs on these plants, but these plants are not, they're not perennial, are they? Yeah, they are perennial, but they will, their leaves will fall off during the course of the winter time. So I don't know how the eggs survive the winter. Now, Judy H., you reckon that this could be the dancing acria. I have no way of telling if you're right or wrong, and given that you're normally right, I'm going to say yes, okay, dancing acria we'll go with. Thank you very much for that. Good. Alrighty, let's carry on. We're going to head down into the drainage system here, see what we can find. Herbert, which way do you want to go? You want to check the pans down this way. Let's go this way. Now, Buttons Cockatoo, wonderful Twitter handle, well done. You want to know if we've got invasive weeds in this area. A crocodile has carried on along this way. Buttons Cockatoo, we get a few exotic plants. I wouldn't describe any of them as invasive. The most obvious is the black-eyed Susan, or the red star zinnia. No, the black-eyed Susan is different from the red star zinnia. The red star zinnia is the most obvious one. Zinnia peruviana, unsurprisingly, it is a Peruvian species, and it occurs in this area, but it is not invasive. It, occurs in little patches and comes up during the summertime and then disappears again. There are many invasive species around the place, though. The most obvious one is something called Chromalina odorata, or the triffid weed, and that occurs in much wetter places, into Swaziland and down into northern Natal, but we don't get that here. Then Lantana camara is probably the most obvious invasive that we get here. It comes down the river systems, it gets into the bush here, and it can be a real issue. And so there's a huge government program called Working for Water, which sends teams of people out onto the river courses, especially sort of round about this time of the year when they're all up, and they pull them out, and it's a constant struggle, of course. So there are a few, but there's nothing that threatens to take this place over at the moment, which is a bit of a relief. Watch that log there, Craig. It was much easier doing my job than it is Craig's, because he has to watch me, stay in focus, not get the aerial tagged on or snagged on anything, and not fall over. Pensive, do we have any whatties? Oh, cotton or hemp plants. Yes, there is a wild cotton out here. You get Gossypium herbaceum. That is a wild cotton. It looks almost exactly like a domestic cotton plant. It just doesn't produce quite as much cotton. I don't think it's ever been used, actually, for commercial cotton use. Maybe it's been hybridized with commercial cotton, because cotton has been grown in South Africa from time to time. Hemp, I don't think... There must be one or two indigenous hemp species. I'm afraid I don't know many of them, or any of them at all. But I know that hemp is grown in South Africa. Whether all of those hemp plants are indigenous or not, I'm afraid I don't know. Here's the next pan. And this is a kind of area where Shongile might hang around, but she's been moving quite extensively, and I suspect that she wouldn't hang around necessarily at a pan like this, because her favourite meal, terrapins, there won't be as many of them as there might be in other plots. We'll just keep looking around here and see if we can't find her tracks, and rather like yesterday, end up the last part of the show with her on foot. It would be very special indeed. This is obviously where Tingana was last night, because there are tracks of vehicles all over the place. So I think he was around there. Now, if you are tracking a leopard, the best thing to do, especially a leopard that likes to eat terrapins, is to just check around the mud on the edges, on the fringes of these water holes, and just look for their little pug marks. No pug marks here. Plenty pug marks of, can you call a warthog's footprint a pug mark? I'm not sure. But there are plenty of warthog tracks. So the warthogs have been coming down, probably wallowing, having a drink, and then heading off into the shade somewhere around here. Okay, let's go back across to what? I just heard Jamie, and oh, I thought she was going to be with those lions, and then I didn't hear lion, and I didn't hear lion. It wasn't lion. She's got something else for you.
I've got an elephant that is making his way straight towards those lines, and unfortunately he's walked straight behind us, so I do apologize for the cable in front of your view. There's nothing we can do yet. Actually, there is something we can do yet. We could turn around. Now that he's a bit further away from us, I'm going to turn around and go and catch up with him. We've left our lions for now because I heard the breaking of the branches, and I realized that there must be an elephant relatively close, and since our lions were so sleepy, I figured we could leave them for now and go off in search of other things. Quickly, let's go over to Brent, who's got an amazing aerial predator.
Well, he's being bombarded by other birds. You can see he's fluffed up, he's quite angry, and it's a hunting Harrier hawk. Look at that. You can see he's quite upset. He's fluffed up. Now, he's about to get bombed by a roller again, and that's what's... And actually being bombed by kingfishers and rollers. The kingfisher's flown off. So, of course, these are incredible... Oh, off he goes, hopping. Oh, there's another bird above him. There's a starling harassing him. So he'll clamber through looking for any holes in the tree. Now, they have the ability to... I'm just going to move forward a little bit for him. To dislocate their knee joint, enabling them to get deep in the hole to pull out baby birds, which is one of their favorite foods. They also pull out monitor lizards and tree agamas and all sorts of things like that. He's just moved to the back of the tree. We don't have the best view at the moment, but you can see the other birds. There's a drongo that's arrived now. They're all attacking him. So he's a very big threat to any nesting bird, and there's still some birds that'll have babies in nests. Oh, off he goes into the next tree, and you can see how the starlings are mobbing him. Oh, look at that! That starling almost landed in the middle of his back. He's obviously found getting closer to a nest then, when that behavior becomes more aggressive. Now, they are constantly harassed by other birds, so they're quite used to it, and they still get quite irritated about it. You can see how flushed his feathers are. Forward again, sorry. There we go. So you can see there's a place where a branch is broken off, and there's obviously a hollow around there, and that's where a lot of birds would like to nest. Look at that starling, is getting so close to him. Now another thing, oh look, there we go. Is he going to find something in that hole? Another thing they will catch out of those holes is squirrels. I think they're very beautiful Harrier hawks. All the starlings. And drongo now is also joined in the attack mob. So basically what the little birds will do, and they've succeeded now, is harass him till he flies off. Okay, you can see constant companions. Now they'll only normally leave him alone once he's moved out of an area where those particular individuals have nests. Oh, there we go, you got hit again. Now, of course, the other birds are going to do little or no damage, but basically it just is to harass that harrier hawk to make its life as uncomfortable as possible, that it's going to move away, which it did. Okay, well, we're going to start heading now slowly towards the east. I'm going to try and get an update on Thandi and Thamba, but I still just wanted to double check that there was no sign of Sana along our southern boundary. Okay, well, we are to the east. Let's go to Jamie, who's got a pachyderm.
I've got a pachyderm that is just about to have a drink at Galago Pan, and then potentially, if he continues in the direction he's going in, there is a good chance he could see those lions. We're right next to them. They are just off a little bit to my right, but we're not going to go off the elephant for now. We're going to stay watching him as he quenches his thirst. Young bull, still quite small in terms of size, and you can see him using that all-important trunk to slurp up and transfer the water from the pan itself into his mouth. Ah, look at that technique, making sure he gets every last drop. Imagine if elephants didn't have trunks and they had to lean down to drink like a giraffe. Can you imagine how peculiar that would be? And sometimes you see baby elephants, because they haven't quite got the whole trunk thing right just yet. You'll actually see baby elephants get down and put their mouths straight into the water. But imagine how peculiar it would be, yummy, if elephants didn't have trunks and they had to drink that way. But they do, and the trunk acts as a very useful way of transferring water from all the way down there up into his mouth. Now, elephants don't... you may actually see there's some kids in the background. That's because we're right next to the lodge. He's not terribly impressed by that whole deal. And off he goes again. It's okay, boy. It's alright, they're just kids. Shame. They wanted to come and have a look. You can imagine the excitement of coming out to your lodge, or out of your lodge room, and all of a sudden you see an elephant drinking outside. And just like that, the lions have escaped his notice. Unless he picks up on the scent, and I don't think he's going to, because the wind is blowing the scent towards me, not towards him. There he goes off in the distance. The lions were just here. The lions were right over there, so there was a chance, and they were watching the elephant carefully. There was a good chance that if he'd gone that way, he absolutely would have chased them. Elephants don't like predators. It is just one of those things. Particularly wild dogs, but lions as well. And they'll go and they'll chase them, and the lions kind of just jog away. So there you go. Now, Sammy, you want to know if the lions would be a threat to that elephant? Not really, no. There are lions that hunt elephants, and by the way, I'm going to have to leave these lions now because there are lots of other people that want to come and see them. Lions can hunt elephants. They do so generally when they're really desperate for it. It's usually specialized prides that have learned to hunt elephants, and generally when they tackle something, they'll go for a young bull that is on the outskirts of the herd, that is just at that point of leaving the elephant herd, because the herd's less likely to band together and to protect them. And even then, 2 male lions are a big thing, but not quite big enough to take out an elephant. For that you need numbers. You really, really do. Alright, we're going to leave these lions for now, since our Ellie has moved off, and I kind of actually just shouldered my way back into the sighting, because the people hadn't got here yet. But I did say I was on my way so that they could come in. I just wanted to see how the situation played out with the elephant. But we're going to make space for the other vehicles, go off and search for other things to find. Perhaps we'll catch up with that elephant round the corner. It's not Tinyo, by the way. I'm sorry, I was mistaken. At the danger of assumptions, he looked up at me. That was not Tinyo. I think it's Nena. He's just got a lot more scars than I remember him having. But it definitely wasn't Tinyo. It's my mistake. I made an assumption because I saw Mufmo, and I thought, well, we always see Mufmo with Tinyo, therefore it must be him. It wasn't. And it's important for us to remember not to make assumptions like that straight off the bat without actually confirming. It was definitely not Tinyo. I only got a brief view of his face, but from what I saw, it's not Tinyo. Tinyo's also got a very easily identifiable half moon, sort of crescent cut out of his right ear. Let's go and see if we can find our Ellie again, now that he's moved off from his drink. I was just thinking, it's funny how often our trains of thought intersect. I was just thinking this was one of the last places I saw Karula during the TV show. Underneath this massive jackalberry tree over here on my right, on top of the termite mound. Karula was lying at the base here. Where, oh where has Karula gone? But this is one of her favourite spots, and this is a perfect tree for a leopard to climb into. Alex, and you were wondering whether or not an elephant has ever pushed over a tree with a leopard inside of it. I guess you could say never. I suppose at some point in the history of animals in this area, it's a possibility that it's happened. I've certainly never seen it, and I would hazard a guess and say that once the pushing started, if the pushing started, chances would be that the leopard would climb down and slink off as fast as possible. I don't think that they'd be caught unawares by an elephant all of a sudden pushing a tree over. So no, I don't think it happens all that regularly, but to say never would be a silly answer indeed, because I suspect it's a possibility, but it's very, very unlikely. Chances are the leopard's going to move away, and the elephant might be a bit put out by the presence of a predator in the tree that it wants to feed on. Might go and harass a leopard up a tree. If a leopard sought refuge there, an elephant might go and sort of sniff and trumpet and make a fuss about the fact that there was a leopard up there, but I doubt it would actively push it over. You never know, though. Strange things happen. I mean, Tristan was showing me the picture, some of you might have seen it, the picture of a baobab that fell on an elephant and killed it. I mean, what are the chances? Alrighty, I'm going to move out of everybody's way so that they can... Morning, good, thanks, how are you? To continue on our search for the elephant, while I do, let's find out how James's walk is treating him.
It's treating me quite well at the moment. We've found tracks of shongiles down here. I'm not going to attempt to show them to you because they're, well, unless you're Herbert, you won't be able to see them. But let's just walk around this waterhole. It's exactly what happened yesterday. We found a little waterhole next to which he was sitting. And so we'll keep an eye out. Herbert's just in front of us. She could be anywhere in these bushes here, waiting, having a snooze, perhaps thinking about her next meal of stinking terrapin. And you can see this one. I mean, this is actually quite cool. While Herbert looks around there, just look in here at this algal sort of film that is on the top, and I'll break it up. Can you see my stick? I'm going to break the film. Look at that. Isn't that cool? I'll pick some of it up. No. Well, there is the algae. Any number of species, no doubt. I'm not sure which ones. And there are definitely terrapins in here. I can see them moving underneath the surface of this green sludge of the Fail and Skymander butt, the foul and slimy pond. Alright, let's go over this way. Herbie's just going to check in the shade down there, and then we're going to head towards those pans on Ingwe Alley, where of course Karula used to take the cubs quite often. We'll just go and check in the shade here first. I'm sorry, I missed your name there, but I'll answer the question while I wait for it. You say, what is the difference between pug marks, tracks, or spoor? Steve, that's your name. Steve, there's no difference, it's just English semantics. I guess, strictly speaking, a pug mark relates to a cat. It's not, I'm talking rubbish, it's not semantics at all. A track is a footprint, right? A track is a footprint. A pug mark, I think, is more a predator's footprint. So, like a dog or a cat mark, normally used to refer to a cat. And a spoor actually is everything. Any sign that an animal may have left. So it could be dung, it could be a scraping, it could be the footprint itself, it could be a piece of hair stuck in the bark of a tree or anything like that. That would be spoor. So there we go. There is a definite distinction between them. Hang on, enormous spider's web. Right, so Herbert's walking down there. You just had the good, the bad and the ugly there. And I thought we might find her in the shade of one of these trees here. I love this little grove of tambutis. It's shady and cool and peaceful. He's over here and he's calling now. Herbert, I mean. Let's just walk a little bit faster. I know that it's probably a little bit wobbly, but the last time he did that he had Shongile on foot with him. So we'll just walk very gently along the path here. I can see Herbie. Don't think he's found her at this stage. He might have. Let's find out. Okay, she's come along this path. He doesn't have her yet, but she's come straight along this path which heads towards those pans off Ingwe Alley. So we'll just let Herbie walk in front, and that means, of course, that he will disturb her less than if we just bungled into her as a group of three, me making a noise by talking. So we'll just let him get a little bit ahead and see if there isn't some interesting piece of biology that we can show you on the way. Remember we were talking about the mud? Well, there's further mud on the top of this tree, and often on game paths. I suspect probably a buffalo left that there sometime during the last rainy season when they were last here. And look here. This is that hibiscus micrantha, and they produce quite cotton-like seeds as well. Isn't that nice? And I'm afraid, Dustin, I missed your question about the algae. I'll get it again. Bustin with a B. And you want to know which herbivores would eat that algae. Bustin, it would probably largely be things like Egyptian geese. They would eat the algae, definitely. The terrapins, well, some of them might. They're quite omnivorous, but they do like to eat, they prefer to eat insects and meat and that sort of thing. So I suppose it would be probably the Egyptian geese, various other duck species, and lots of invertebrates would eat them. Oh, watch out here, Craig. This was almost certainly made by an elephant that had come through the mud. Oh, Craig is now stuck thoroughly. You right there? I'll move this out the way for you. There we go. Of course, we must be relatively careful and quiet as we walk along here. It's a gorgeous, gorgeous place to walk at this time of the day because it's just starting to get hot, but it's nice and shady. And look up here. This was an elephant. You can see the mud on the top of this tree here. He's rubbed off as he's come past here. Wandering along, picking pieces of vegetation, bits of leaves, etc. for himself to eat. Just watch out here, Craig. Yeah, if you come around this way, you should be alright. Same thing here. This stuff is actually quite wet, so I think it was probably from yesterday that it was made. Some of it obviously is not very new because this is a commonly walked path. Okay, I believe Brent has gone far east. be able to find Thamba or Tandi, but he will tell you about that now.
So they actually left the carcass. I thought it got stolen. They just abandoned it. So their tracks walk into Cheetah Plains there. It looks like they went for a drink at the pan. Now their tracks are coming straight back towards the carcass. So we're going to try jump ahead to get there. And then Tingana's tracks also carry on here but head south out of our traverse. So there's been lots of leopards around this morning in this area. Now there should be a little road coming up on the left here somewhere. It should shortcut us in to where Tandi had that kudu kill. Now I do enjoy Thamba, so I think some of the nicest photographs I've taken in the last little while have been of young Thamba with his big ears. There we go, this is the road I was looking for. So it looks like they took a shortcut through the bush. And in this long grass they can disappear quite easily. See if their tracks come out. Now I think Tandi spends a lot of time in this area, but because it's so thick and the grass is so long, she can be quite difficult to find in this particular area. Now, while we slowly making our way back towards the carcass, we chatted about a place called the Sud in South Sudan on the Nile River, one of the largest swamps in Africa, and it's definitely on my bucket list of places to go. Now, there's quite a few incredible spots in Africa that I haven't been lucky enough to get to yet, and I've been lucky to go to a lot of amazing places, and a lot of places that very few people have ever been or will ever go. So I think definitely another one on my list is Ethiopia, not only for the bird watching but to go see the Ethiopian wolves. That'll be very exciting. And we're actually having a chat around the dinner table last night about what adventures we want to get up to, and Steph's been going on about, for his 40th, he wants to stare into an active volcano caldera, and of course there's a few of those around in Africa, not many, but there is one just across the border from Uganda and Rwanda in the DRC, and there's an active caldera there and bubbling lava. That is something is definitely worth seeing. I've climbed up WildEarthTV, which is the only active volcano in East Africa, which is in Tanzania, and it is also considered that's where God lives, or the god of the Ma or Maasai people lives in WildEarthTV, and WildEarthTV basically translated means mountain of God. Okay. No sign of her popping out here, so let's head a little bit to the south. Pug Sanatic would like to know if I've ever been to see Mount Kilimanjaro. Believe it or not, I've played rugby under Mount Kilimanjaro. Yes, so I've been to Mount Kilimanjaro quite a few times when I lived in Tanzania. So I have been there, and I've even played rugby with Mount Kilimanjaro in the background. I used to play for the Dar es Salaam Leopards, was the name of our rugby team, and we played against our arch rivals, the Arusha Rhinos and the Moshe Mountains. Moshe is the town at the base of Kilimanjaro where we've played. And us coastal boys, as they called us, and it's quite difficult for us coastal boys. It's quite high altitude there, but we did have some fantastic games, and there isn't probably not too many backdrops that's spectacular to play sport sport against. But well, according to Final Control, we should go across to Amy to see where she's played rugby in Africa. I'm interested to hear where.
As you can probably imagine, I have many tales of when I've played rugby. Unfortunately, I've never played rugby on the slopes of Mount Kilimanjaro or with it as a backdrop. But as you can tell, I am very much built like a rugby player, and playing rugby has always been my passion. I'm very, very good at it. I'm talking absolute nonsense. I have not played rugby in many places in Africa. I've played rugby in the Kalahari, but that was touch rugby. My only advantage is that I'm quite fast, and if I turn sideways then I actually disappear, so then nobody can see me. And that's about the extent, I'm afraid, of my rugby tales. There are lots of spider webs here. Let me grab them. There we go. I'm sorry to disappoint you. My thrilling rugby tales, I guess my rugby playing days are pretty much over. I played a lot of soccer, or football, but that was in muddy fields in Cambridge, which is, I guess it's a pretty backdrop, but it's not quite on the slopes of Mount Kilimanjaro. I feel as though I've been thrown a serious curveball here that I definitely am not able to catch. My entire family are not really built like rugby players. Right. So, since I can't catch this crooked pass, I'll give you an update on the animals, which is something I do know about. And that's the fact that Herbie and James have found very fresh tracks of Shongile. And since Brent has been double checking on Thandi and Thamba, I thought it might be a good idea for me to go and scratch around and see if I can help them follow up on Shongile. I also keep driving around and I look in every tree that I've seen Karula in, just in the vague hope that somehow she's used one of her portholes, and without leaving any tracks, she somehow wound up on Djuma. I've seen her kill an impala right here in front of me, on this road, before we even started the sunset safari. Karula, it's time to come back now. It's time to come back home. Let's go and see if we can find her daughter instead. That's a good question coming from Robin, and of course we've gone through many theories about where it is Karula's gone, what it is she's up to, but the only facts that we do know is that Shongile is now all on her own. And Robin wants to know, would she be aware of other females and where other females' territories would be? Yes, I think that she would. I absolutely think that she would. She's been with her mum to the extremes of her territory. She's been with her mum into Arathusa, so she'll be aware of Shadow. She would have smelt the presence of other females. She's met Shadow before in that incredible sighting that we had with Shongile Hosana Karula on a kill, and then Tingana came in and stole it, bringing Shadow, who he was mating with at the time, with him. So she's met other females, and I think she'll be aware. And also, of course, remember that they've got such a potent sense of smell, such a very, very strong sense of smell, that she would have smelt the presence of other females when she's been on the boundaries of their territories. So I think that she would. Would that stop her from straying into those territories? Probably. I think she's going to stick where she knows for now. But once it comes time for her to really start establishing herself and marking her own territory, it might be that she pushes a little bit into the territory of another female. She's a little bit thin, but that's because Mum hasn't been around and she's still quite young. She isn't the most appetizing food. Monitor lizards, yes. They're going to keep her growing and healthy for now. I don't know what's going to happen. None of us do. It might decide it was time for these cubs to become independent, but it seems very, very early. Personally, I don't believe so. But I don't know what is going on. We'll just have to puzzle it over, and we may never know exactly what went through Karula's head or their heads at the moment. I've mentioned that Herbie and James have found the fresh tracks. Let's go across to them and see where they are and where the tracks are leading them.
We're not sure how fresh they are. I mean, they look sort of relatively fresh. There's nothing on top of them, but they could have come down here at some stage during the course of the morning, sort of, 2 or 3 hours ago. So it's difficult to tell from that perspective. She's come basically, as I said, from waterhole to waterhole. The last track we have is actually over here. I think I may have just stood on it. Anyway, it's around there. She probably had a brief look around here, maybe caught a terrapin, and then we think probably carried on towards Twin Dams. And so we're going to go down into the drainage and along and then back out onto the road and see if she doesn't come out that way. She could be hiding in the bushes anywhere around here, of course. I don't think she would necessarily try and hide from us, but if we couldn't see her, she's not exactly going to stick her face up and say, "Hi, I'm over here." Anyway, that's the story. Right, come on. Did you hear that whistle, everybody? Herbert has found something over here. The good, the bad, and the ugly. Nkomile. Just come over here. I think he's probably just got the tracks heading across down in here into the drainage. Yeah, he does. So we don't have the animal yet, but you could easily expect her to be sitting in the boughs of one of these beautiful jackalberry trees that provide such wonderful shade on a rapidly warming day. So his tracks have come down through here. And Brent, apparently, is now in the position around where I was yesterday and seemingly has found what we had there yesterday.
Well, there is the beautiful Thandi. Thamba is just off in the long grass. We can't see him at the moment. He moved off into there a little bit earlier, but here she is, looking happy and full. And the remnants of the young kudu is up in the tree, safe from hyenas. They've eaten quite a lot of it. Of course, she's got a growing boy to feed. Now, I'm just going to move around and let's just see if we can get a better view of Mr. Thamba. How's that? Okay, there we go. But it's exciting. I haven't seen them. Have I seen them since I've been back from leave? No, I've tracked them a couple of times, but I haven't found them. Quite nice when you've got leopards on a nice kudu kill, because they're going to be here for a day or two, although I think they'll be here till tomorrow. Let's see, I can't see him. I just saw a flick of a tail in the long grass, but no such luck. Okay, let's keep going round. Maybe we'll get a view from the other side. Round and round the Pelter Forum with the dead kudu in it. Not the mulberry bush out here. Generally when we go round and round a bush, it's because there's a leopard kill in it. So it's in a weeping wattle or a Pelter Forum. There we go. Maybe we'll be able to see a Thamba from this side. There he is. How's that, Bim? There's Tandi, and there is the lazy Thamba. Isn't that beautiful? Look at the moving tail of Tandi. Lee Huggs is wondering, do smaller cats stash their food like leopards? Certain species do sometimes, but it's not too common. Normally with the smaller cats, their food is quite small, so they will eat it very quickly and then it's all gone. So there's no need to stash. Oh, we got Tandi trying to bite flies. You can see that little half hiss at the biting flies. Oh, Thamba. Tamba's got a full tummy and he is very much breathing heavily, fast asleep. His mom's doing a very good job providing for him. Now, Kirk, you were wondering why they're breathing so heavily. Well, Kirk, it's they're busy digesting kudu, and digestion does create heat. So the way big cats cool down is to pant. So the heavier and faster they pant, generally the more full they are, or the more hot they are. I'm just going to try and move, I think, back a little bit for them, so Tandi doesn't have a leaf in front of her. How's that? VM better? There we go. So she's done exceedingly well to get Thamba to this age. He's getting, how old is he now? He must be oh, there we go. Thank you. He was born in July, so 9 months old, getting close to that year mark. So once he gets to a year, that mortality rates for young leopards falls quite drastically. He will normally stay with his mom until he's about 18 months to 2 years old. Tandi watching out for vultures or flying overhead, hoping they don't spot her kudu kill. Oh, her belly's so full she's getting uncomfortable. But she always will keep an eye out on that carcass. Always very, very aware of vultures and other scavengers. The flies seem to be bothering her quite a lot this morning. You can see she's got a broken bottom left canine, which is now obviously behind a blade of grass. There we go, you can see it there through the gap. And it is warming up quite quickly at the moment. And of course, for those of you who don't know, this is one of Karula's first litter, and she's Shadow's sister. So the two largest territories that Karula borders are both of her daughters. Now, Tandi was said to be having a fight with a female leopard to the south of here 2 days ago or so. Most people seem to think it was Kuchava, who is one of her adult offspring, and Kuchava might have been sneaking a little bit too far into the core of Tandi's territory. Could have also, of course, been an unknown leopard coming in from the south. Jacqueline's wondering, what is a leopard's normal body temperature? If I remember correctly, it's very, very similar to ours. And the difference is, if their body temperature raises by even just a degree or two, it can put them into a very serious situation, that they might even die. So when it's hot and when they're full, they'll try to do as little as possible. Isn't she gorgeous? Not the best sighting we've ever had of the beautiful Tandi, but It is quite late in the morning. Hopefully she'll be up in the tree if someone comes here this afternoon. We're going to stay a little bit longer here, and while we do that, let's go see what James is up to.
Right, well, we're sitting here in the thick bush off the Mloamati drainage. We're on the fresh track still. They're still going south. So when I say fresh, obviously a qualifier somewhere between now and 3 hours ago. So she could be quite a long way from here. We followed up on some Franklin alarming, but they can alarm call it anything. And we've got some greenback bleating warblers calling in there. But I think they're shouting at Herbie and I. Anyway, Jamie is also hot on the trail with us, and she's now gone down the drainage line just to see if she can't perhaps cut her off, because she's heading straight to Twin Dams. But whether she's there, has crossed from there, or between there and here, we're not sure. Why am I talking so quietly? Well, we're now into the thick stuff, and in the thick stuff, sometimes, as the old saying goes, hic sunt dracones. Here be dragons, except in this case, there could be buffalo. And so you want to be a little bit quieter so that you can tell when the buffalo is going to come charging out of the bushes at you. What you don't want to be doing is waffling at high volume, and then the first you'll know of the buffalo is as it hits you. It's much better to talk like this, and then at least you know 3 or 4 seconds before the buffalo hits you what's going to hit you. I find that it's important to know what is after you as opposed to just experiencing the thing in your sort of personal space. I'm being facetious, of course, but there is definitely a need to be quieter in areas like this, because you do want to hear if something stands up and snorts and perhaps warns you. This is interesting. There are 2 trees here that have been chopped down very cleanly, and I wonder when that was and who did it and for what purpose, because they look like leadwood trees. And when many of the first camps were built in this area, of course leadwood was the tree that they chose to use. I would love to spin you some yarn about their being created or chopped down by an ancient people and culture from this area, but I think on closer inspection those have been had at by a chainsaw, so probably not too distant the past when they were chopped down. Herbie's going that way. Let's try and keep Craig out of the thick stuff, and we'll keep going down through here. Oh, I thought I'd seen a nice spider, but I haven't. Here's a gardenia flower, gardenia plant, and as I've said to many of you before, they have the best smelling flowers out here, but they last for 2 or 3 days, and this one is definitely long past flowering. I think probably around about December time if it was lucky, but it's been so mangled, unfortunately, by elephants that it probably didn't flower at all. Oh well, let's carry on. And still here, more evidence of buffalo. You can see the mud on the edges of the trees here. This is the weeping wattle. And I'm just listening to Herbert's footfalls. He's also talking to Jamie on the radio. He's just in front of us here. Let's go and see what he has to tell us. Hello Tammy, you're wondering about snares or poaching and whether I've ever come across one while walking in the bush. I have, but not here. I've absolutely, where I worked before I came here, in a place just north of us, or about 200 k's north of where we are now, there was a sort of community-owned reserve that the government had very much neglected, along with so many other things. And in that reserve, there were horrible snares. There were fields of snares that we used to have to go and remove. So that was very distressing to find. And thankfully, I never found a living animal in a snare. But we did once find a buffalo that had died in the snare, and it was being eaten by vultures. People who'd put the snares had come back to look. and so it died a horribly painful death. So yes, it does happen, unfortunately. It's a function out here, not so much of cruelty, but of necessity and people's desperate desire to eat. And it's the cheapest and easiest way to catch, and safest way to catch a meal. It also, unfortunately, is by far the most painful way for an animal to die. And it's so, I mean, it's the most simple concept, and I've often thought to myself, you know, how on earth can an animal not figure out that if it just stops pulling, if it just relaxes, the snare will release and it'll be able to move its foot out? Because there's not an animal out here that isn't dexterous enough with either mouth or with its other feet to loosen a snare if it could just figure out how to do it. And even monkeys would struggle to do it. And it's amazing. I think it's just that instinctual reaction when someone catches you. It's just like when if someone grabs you, your instinct is to pull away immediately. And in an animal, that the calmness that comes with a human being never comes. They just start pulling and they become completely frantic. And once they've done that, of course, the adrenaline goes through the roof. They start pulling, and eventually it'll either kill them, or sometimes they'll actually lose a limb. So that's a rather morbid subject. But yes, no snares have I found here. Certainly where I used to work, absolutely. We used to remove fields of them. And that's the best way to dissuade a poacher, if you are taking the snares out, because they take an enormous amount of effort to put up and to create these fields. And if you just go and cut them out, I mean, the effort to move them is about less than a 20th of what it is to put them up. We're going to carry on through this thick stuff. Let's head across to Brent and find out how Thandi and Thamba are faring on this very beautiful autumnal morning.
Well, Tandi's getting quite irritated with the biting flies. She's been snarling at them from time to time. And you can see they are both really full, really heavy. And it's probably a little bit uncomfortable having that much weight in your belly. And coupled with the fact of stable flies nipping your nose and your ears, it can make you a little grumpy. Here we go. Isn't she gorgeous? Now, I don't think they're going to do too much, and we got a lovely yawn from her. And I don't want to move forward past her, and as I say, Thandi, all different leopards have different personalities, and she can be a bit of a grumpy one. So we are going to leave her to laze in the shade next to her kudu kill. And there she is. You can see that Kosi is talking about that bottom canine tooth of hers that's broken, and will it grow back? It will not. Once that tooth is broken, it will not grow back. So, but it doesn't affect her too much. As you can see, she's still catching kudus and things, and as we say that, she's just checking that the kudu is still in the tree. So, well, Thandi and Thamba rest fitfully after a very big meal. Hopefully they'll be a bit more active on this evening, and so we're going to leave her. Now, with a leopard like Thandi, you'll notice that I let the car run a little bit longer before I move it. Now, she has been relaxed with our presence, but movement, and especially she's full, she's heavy, and we don't want to upset her. So let's just move back very slowly. And see, that's why I let the car run for a few seconds. With certain leopards, you don't have to do that. Okay. Oh, and it sounds like Jamie's trying to get hold of me to find out if we had any tracks of Shungile crossing south. So let me just jump onto the Northern Game Drive channel. Jamie. We had no tracks of Shungile crossing south. The last tracks go from Mamba Road into the block between Ledwood and Mamba. FM. Okay, so as I said, we're just going to go quite wide around here, and there's no need to upset the animals, and the amount of time we spend with the there's a big stump in there, with the different animals in here, around here, that we get to know the individual personalities, and different animals have different comfort zones, and Thandi's comfort zone is a bit wider than, say, or a bit further than, say, Shongile. And Karuda's also got a bit of a wider comfort zone, and you'll find that with cubs, they tend to have less of a problem with the vehicles, but as the animals get older, that comfort zone extends and gets a little bit wider. Now, that's of course all depends. If they walk into your zone, that's completely fine, but you should never force yourself into their zone. Aha! Now, we've had a spotted cat this morning. We've had a spotted hyena. Now we have a spotted camel horse with James.
Well, we did have a spotted camel horse. It's sort of gone into the bushes there. We can try and get another view. I think it's going to probably run from us, but let's try. We don't have very many of these at the moment, and somebody was asking yesterday, where have all the giraffes gone? Well, here's one of them. He looks like a bull in his prime. Let's walk around the corner here and see if we can't get a nicer view of him. And we were also asked yesterday about oxpecker alarm calls and whether they do alarm call, and of course they do. And that's how we found this giraffe. We heard the oxpeckers calling, and then they descended, and so we walked to where they descended, and there was the giraffe. Now, apparently Brent was actually following these leopard tracks earlier. We didn't realize that. It were not exactly the same ones, but he did find young leopard tracks crossing a road just to the south of us. So I think these were, as we suspected, probably about 3 hours old. There he is. Just disappearing behind the tree there, because he is a deeply irritating animal. Let's continue. Well, an animal knows that if it can't see you, then you can't see it. There we go. Oh, stop running away. You really are born of the most pathetic nature. You hear it breathing there. It went. That's almost a giraffe alarm call. But it is very nice to see a giraffe. I think probably better to see it in vehicle, but we'll carry on. Where's the pan you want to check, Herbie? Sure, let's walk towards it. The giraffe is right near a pan that we want to check. And maybe that it wasn't alarming at us, maybe it was alarming at Shongile, but I don't think so. We'll try and get another view of our giraffe bull in his prime. Yellow or lily-livered as he is. Now there he is, he's running away now at 100 miles an hour. I mean, that is a very poor show. Alright, Jamie is not actually far from here. She's helping on the search for Shongile. She's over there. She hasn't found Shongile, but she's found a rather shaggy creature to show you.
I've found several shaggy creatures to show you, unfortunately not in the form of Shongile, who it seems as though is on her mission to the south and has disappeared into a very tricky patch of vegetation. But we have got a collection of Waterbuck. What is our conclusion on the collective noun again? Oh, I don't know. Let's go with a waggle of Waterbuck for now. And a series of young males. In fact, almost all of them are young males. There's only one adult female, which is interesting and quite unusual. And you can see the gentleman... now I'm going to have difficulty. The one that's currently feeding, whilst all the others have their heads, the biggest male. He is causing problems this morning. He's been butting the females around, and he's been bullying the other slightly smaller young males, which is relatively typical behavior. And we have seen several waterbuck that are caught up in the hormones of this time of year and been chasing the ladies around. He, even though he's not fully grown, has been practicing his fighting skills. What have you seen? Sorry, there's an alarm call. Oh, no, maybe it was just a sneeze. What have you seen? Look at the one on the damn wall looking down there. He's the one that snorted. What's there, guys? Are you just being cautious because it's water, or have you seen something? It could easily be Shongile. She may well have come to Twin Dams. This is her area. There's a lot of caution in that antelope's body language. They might also just have seen something else. It's entirely possible. False alarms are relatively common in animals that spend their lives looking over their shoulders. If Kirsty's happy for me to, I'm just going to go forward. It's a little bit of signal black hole in this area. Let's just go see. Is Shongile in her favourite water pan? What have you guys seen? What is there? Okay, now you're all looking at me, which is relatively standard. Let's just see if we can spot what they've spotted.
Right, we're still walking along here, discussing what we'd do if we came across a mamba. Sorry about the crash cut there. Jamie is in a difficult area around Twin Dams. And we're walking quite quickly because we don't have much time left of this drive, so you'll excuse me if I don't face you while I walk. There's one more pan that we want to check, and it doesn't seem that anyone's found tracks of the young leopard crossing south out of our traversing area, so it's going to be worth just quickly checking it. We've only got about sort of 6 minutes left of the drive, maybe 5 minutes. So I hope you don't mind us walking at this speed through the lake. Oh, are you right there, Craig? Craig unfortunately got snared, not obviously by a wire snare like we were discussing earlier, but by a silver cluster leaf tree. Alright, let's keep going through here. The giraffe went wandering off up to the top there. The waterbuck are over there with Jamie at Twin Dams. And in front of us is the world's most beautiful tambuti tree. While we approach that tree, Jamie has found further signal.
Would you like to know what the waterbuck's been alarm calling at and staring at? Because it might entertain you thoroughly. Our waterbuck is alarm calling at a family of ducks. I don't know what to say. The only thing I can say in mitigation of the fact, there's the ducks over there in the water. I've had to, move onto the dam wall to find us some signal. It is our white-faced family of whistling ducks, including their little ones. The only conclusion I can come to is that perhaps the waterbuck somehow has mistaken them for a crocodile, is the only suggestion I have. Their eyesight's not particularly good. So there are all of the ducks, and there is our waterbuck still frozen in a perplexed confusion at the top of the dam wall. And up until 2 seconds ago, here he is, look, he's still staring at them. Okay. I don't really know what to say to that. That wasn't what I was expecting. I thought perhaps it had smelt a leopard or picked up on a Hosana or Shongile somewhere around there. But, well, he might have smelt something. Look, he's sniffing it down on the ground. Perhaps the combination of the scent of a leopard, because we know Shongile has been spending a lot of time here, combined with the presence of white-faced whistling ducks in the water. Perhaps the waterbuck just made some slightly erroneous conclusion, or drew some slightly erroneous conclusions as to what on earth was going on. You silly boy. Oh, it's also got the eye twitch. That is often caused by botfly larvae in the sinuses. That little eye twitch might just be a fly sitting on his eyelid. Yep. The Waterbuck has come to the conclusion safely that the white-faced whistling ducks are not a threat to him at all. I mean, they are pretty terrifying. Just look at them. Look at them loitering with menacing intentions. Look at them. They've just got hooligan written all over their faces. Unpredictable hooligans. You never know when a duck's going to rush out and attack you. Silly Waterbuck. Now the other one started to snort at it. I don't believe this. The other one, the younger male, is now approaching and has made some snorting-like movements in response. You silly things. It's a duck. It's probably the least terrifying thing of all things out here. Oh, that was quite sinister. I had absolutely no idea there was a hippo in this waterhole, and his head just popped up now. That was a surprise. Sorry. I was distracted from our Waterbuck for 1 second. Oh, bye. Kirsty would have wanted to know if we could see the hippo. Nope, sorry. He's gone. We'll have to have made do with white-faced whistling ducks and Waterbuck. At least we've got a good place to start our sunset safari this afternoon. We know roughly where to search for Shongile. We know roughly whereabouts she was last wandering about. So who knows what the afternoon will hold. You'll just have to wait and see to find out. Unfortunately, though, it is the end of our sunrise safari. We've got another spiderweb. Let me try and grab those. So thank you to Senzo for his wonderful camera work and also for being covered in spider webs and not complaining very much about it at all. And thank you to Kirsty and to Alice in Final Control for keeping us entertained. One last view, quickly, of the hippopotamus. Most importantly, thank you to you all. And from Senzo, myself, and the hippopotamus, join us again in a few short hours for the sunset safari. Bye-bye, everybody.